Welcome back to MFO, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to another episode. This has been a big weekend for bass fishing, and we're going to talk about the Bass Elites. But to get you ready for talking about the Elites, I want to talk about the magic of bass fishing. Some things, I'm going to mention some of these moments, and my guess is they are going to absolutely ring a bell for you. They're gonna, be standout moments in bass fishing. Let me just mention a couple of these. I'm gonna start with Guntersville. Randy Howell taking off down Guntersville and getting inspiration, making a big U-turn, heading back towards the bridge, and winning the classic on Guntersville. A classic, magical bass fishing moment. What about Takahiro Omori? With like 5 minutes left to go, he puts on a little square bill and catches a couple of last-minute bass on Lake Wiley and ends up winning that event. Or you've got Edwin Evers, who goes way up the Elk River and steals a classic from Jason Christie by catching fish way up on the Elk River for that event. Now you've also got Jason Christie coming back on Grand and winning a classic by throwing a big spinnerbait under docks, behind docks. What a finish there. And obviously Hank Cherry with his two classic finishes, one being on the Guntersville. Well, Hank Cherry and bass kind of brought that magic back to bass fishing, with Hank Cherry winning the first elite event of the year on Guntersville in the cold, doing nothing else but throwing a grub with no forward-facing sonar. We're going to talk about all of that when we come back. Welcome back to Mark Fisher Outdoors, everybody. I'm Mark Fisher. That's right, Hank Cherry wins another event on Guntersville, this time by throwing a chartreuse grub, and ends up taking the event. This was a phenomenal event. I mean, exciting from the standpoint of anglers talking all week about ice being on the bays as they were putting in, and the extreme cold conditions. And I literally was talking about this with somebody today. The difference being that the extreme cold conditions that they had at Guntersville, where they were catching northern strain bass, those fish still bit. Unlike where we were on Harris Chain, where you're fishing for Florida strain bass, and those fish were like dormant. And we'll talk about that in future episodes. But they're catching bass, big bass, on Guntersville in the extreme cold temperatures. You've got guys like Gussie, who was doing great using his old school mopping or moping technique, catching fish using, a minnow, a smeltinator, and a jig head, but literally using 2D sonar to catch these fish. And then, like I said, Hank Cherry using a grub and ending up taking the championship by quite a big amount. Guys, Bass's decision to go on and off with forward-facing sonar, I think, is a good one, and it's a good one. It's gonna save some careers. Take a look at some of these names. These are names of guys who cashed checks this week. Hank Cherry came in 80th place in Angler of the Year last year, starting the year off with a win. You got Matt Robertson, who was in 89th place in Angler of the Year last year, top 10. Stetson Blaylock, Brandon Lester, Keith Combs. Gussie, who ended up cashing a check, was in 84th place in Angler of the Year last year. Cliff Pace, 81st place in Angler of the Year last year. Not having scope really kind of shows that when you don't have scope, it gives everybody a chance to be cashing checks and getting in on the mix. It's 100% an equalizer for sure. Not going to take any. Trey McKinney was the one angler that I would look at and say, Scoper came in top 10. So give it up for him. But you did not see names like Tucker Smith or Emil Wagner or JT Tompkins up in the top standings. No scope and no money finishes there. Guys, this was a great event to watch. A lot of drama, a lot of lead changes. There were 4 different leaders throughout the tournament. Every day someone else was a new leader, and very cool to see Hank Cherry come up with this old school grub technique to end up winning it, and on his birthday nonetheless. Just all sorts of drama and storylines to follow with the Bassmaster Elite on Guntersville. Love to know what you guys thought of it. Did you like it, the fact that it wasn't forward-facing? Did you like the storylines that were going in on it? Did you watch it? I'd love to hear your comments one way or the other. Guys, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you again tomorrow on another episode of Mark Fisher Outdoors. Take care, everybody.